let me start out by saying that I don't have an issue with charities per se. There are lots of great charities around the world doing amazing work, okay, and I fully support them. However, there are some not so much. So let's imagine that we live in a culture or a society where, in order to have fun, what we do is we throw ourselves out of windows. I know it sounds bonkers, but just, kind of go with it for a minute, okay? So it's your birthday, maybe it's just something fun to do on a weekend. You just go upstairs, you throw yourself out of a window. Now, it feels exhilarating. It's really fun. It's like, gosh, that's so, just feel like you're flying for a couple of seconds until, bam, you land on the floor. And inevitably it hurts, you get something breaks, one of your limbs gets broken or whatever. And, somebody says, do you know what, there's a lot of people really, hurting themselves through throwing themselves out of windows. What could we possibly do? Maybe I could go and, scoop those people up off the ground and, nurse them back to health. Until, inevitably they do it again because they just enjoy throwing themselves out of windows. And so imagine that person's me. So I come along and I go, gosh, people keep throwing themselves out of windows and they keep hurting themselves. I'll go and pick them up. And I go round in my little car and I go and pick them up. And over time, I realise that there's quite a lot of this work to do. And so, like, instead of a little car, I get myself like this kind of minibus ambulance type thing. And then I realise, I'm like, gosh, I can't do this on my own. Goodness. And it's taking me away from, paid work. What am I going to do? And so I think, well, maybe I can get other people on board. And so I get other people on board to go and pick up everybody that keeps throwing themselves out of windows and breaking limbs. And over time, like, I have to, start hiring people. And then I say, look, this is getting a bit out of hand, is this? I need to start making some money out of it so that I can pay these people for their time, as some of them are on full, the full-time staff. And so, we end up with, a team of these sort of minibus ambulance things and teams of people. It's really popular because lots of people are throwing themselves out of windows and breaking limbs. And so we end up with this enormous charity, and we say, hey, we're doing fundraisers in order to raise money for people that are throwing themselves out of windows and inevitably getting hurt. These fundraisers, people are like, hey, Lisa, we really support what you're doing there, helping people that are chugging themselves out of windows, which, includes me and everybody else. So we're going to do a chucking yourself out of a window fundraiser. And I'm like, it's brilliant. What a great idea. So what you do is you raise money by throwing yourself out of a window. And so lots of people get together and they say, hey, could you sponsor me? We've got a sponsorship form, an online sponsorship form. Hey, could you sponsor me to throw myself out of a window for Lisa's charity, where she collects people from the ground who have thrown themselves out of windows? People go, oh, that's a brilliant idea. Here's a tenner. Here's 50 quid. Amazing. What a great idea. And, over time, this, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And there are so many of these minibus ambulances, and there are so many people involved in this that it becomes some people's full-time work. I end up being the CEO, and then I've got these just teams of leaders and staff, and they're all over the country, and it becomes global. And then you come along and you look at this, what has become a business, and you say, do you know what? You don't need to be doing that. All you could perhaps do is sort of say to people, how about, instead of throwing yourself out of a window, you do something that's, equally exhilarating, but not quite as dangerous. So maybe, go roller skating or something. It's really exhilarating. Or go on a bike ride or something. It's so exhilarating. Or instead of throwing yourself onto the ground, maybe you can jump off a board into water, and then you've got some kind of safety. But unfortunately, if you say that out loud, people are angry with you. How dare you? How dare you? You've got no empathy for those people that are landing on the ground and breaking limbs. Can you see where I'm going with this? Can you see where I'm going with this? This is why I no longer give money to these chronic illness charities, particularly their fundraisers where you sit around eating cake. Can you see the connection between eating cake, selling cake, and chronic sicknesses? If somebody comes along and says, hey, you know, the reason that you're getting sick is because of your lifestyle, it's something that you're doing, you need to change it, these charities would no longer exist. And these little charities that have become big charities, that have become huge, enormous, money-making organisations, all of the people involved in that, the whole thing would come crashing to the ground if somebody came along and said, this is not necessary, you don't actually need to do this. And therefore, that is why you get attacked, that's why you get shamed, that is why there's a whole narrative around it. If you were to say, listen, you don't have to be breaking your arms and legs, throwing yourself out of a window, find yourself a different way to enjoy yourself, something that's equally exhilarating but not quite as dangerous, because the whole business of these charities would disappear in a heartbeat. And that's why real health, that's why taking care of yourself is not popular. It's a narrative created to keep these businesses in place, because that's what they are, they're businesses. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know.